Hey YouTube, look at this. Cock Tamer. That's one of my merch shirts. I got a real sense of humor. Anyway, I haven't done anything to promote my merch shirts really, and Amazon, of course, won't let me advertise that one. But it sells organically. People come in and they're like, "Oh, I like her vibe." I kind of got the idea because my daughter-in-law raises chickens. She's got a little teeny mini farm there at her place. And I did one shirt that says Chicken Whisperer, and then this other one was just like a go-to. Anyhow, it's a little bit cool today. I live in the northwest corner of Washington State, and we're running in the 50s right now. And I consider that cool enough to wear, my fleece Old Navy, Clarence Old Navy coat. It's like a bright burgundy with like dark brown stripes in it. I just noticed. I didn't care. I think I paid like, $10 for it. So I just didn't care. But anyway, I wanted to get right into it, guys. If I get right into it around a minute, that's like a miracle. And alert the media, right? Anyway, I have been experiencing some success, and I wanted on the weight loss front, and I just wanted everybody to know kind of what I was doing. As you guys know, it was very, very typical for me to have a 2-MAD, meat-centric, ketogenic type of meal twice a day. I just wasn't going down, guys. I was like, what's happening here exactly? Well, what I figured out, which seems like the most intuitive grab ever, but it's just kind of a hard concept to learn, is that coming from a fasting background, it's hard not to overeat once you come back to where, to center. And I like fasting, but I like a more natural fasting. Mom and I have just been, eating around 10:30, the breakfast, and then we'll have a very small kind of snack type of meal around 2. And I like to eat a little earlier than that. I've been actually eating about 8:30 or 9. That works out pretty good. And then I eat again about 1:30 or 2. And then we have a very small bit of dinner around like 4:30 or 5. Hang on, guys, this lawnmower situation. So for instance, yesterday was kind of a normal, newer day. I've just been doing this for almost a week now, and I've already lost 3 pounds. So I've been tracking, you guys. I've been tracking, and this defies sort of the current carnivore and fasting knowledge and insulin resistance. So it's kind of interesting, but I've been tracking, and I usually have my breakfast now between 8:30 and 9:30, and then I have something like I mentioned around 1:30 to 2, and then we eat again about 5:30, and then I don't eat again until the next day. And I'm not gonna sit here and take the mental time or waste your guys' time with figuring out how long I'm actually fasting for, but it's got to be in there 14, 15, 16 hours, which is just kind of how everybody ate back in the day. If you guys remember back in the 70s, before the food pyramid came out, people would eat 3 squares a day, they called it. And then you'd come home from school and your mom would say, "Don't spoil your supper with having a bunch of snacks." And so I wasn't allowed to eat when I came home from school. My mom says, "You've had lunch at noon, you're fine. We're gonna be eating before 6. And I would be a little hungry and be like, but I'd wait because I was told to. And then at supper, I had a robust appetite, and I ate till I was full, and I was done until the next day. Once in a while, I'd have a dessert, but my mom was not into processed food, junk foods, or dessert. She was Norwegian, and she believed strongly in only whole foods way of thinking. I didn't understand how powerful that was going to be for me when I was older. That point of reference and what was considered to be normalcy for me. Here he is again, the lawnmower. It's got to get done, though, if you have lawns. We don't have a lawn. F that, okay? F that noise. We're going to have dichondra. And that's a native of California. It takes drought, establishes fast, deer don't like it. All the good things, all the boxes ticked. Anyhow, so in thinking back on that, and since none of my other stuff was working, I thought I then needed to kind of go back to the basics. So I ate less. I started eating less for breakfast. I allowed myself to just barely kind of cover fullness. I wasn't in any way stuffed. but I was satisfied. I didn't feel bad. Everything was good. And then I wanted to just see, when would I get hungry naturally again? Well, it was about 4 or 5 hours later. And then I had a meat-centric thing. Again, I dished myself up half of what I would normally have in a 2-mat. I was like, well, I thought to myself, you're going to be eating again in 5 hours or less. You don't need to have much. So I had truly 4 ounces of pork, country style ribs I'd made the week before. Well, not the week before, but they were aging out. Anyway. And then last night, Mom and I didn't get around to having anything to eat till about 5:30, which was fine because I'd had something at 1:30. And I was a little bit hungry, but not a ton. And so we had a double cheeseburger and that was it. And yeah, and then I just stepped on the scale twice today. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? What is this here? I had lost 2 pounds, over 2 pounds. Now you might be saying, well, that's water weight. Well, there really isn't any of that. I'm fat burning. I'm not having more than about 15 carbs a day. And some of those carbs are eggs. So it's like, And I'm not a big cheesehead either. For instance, last night, the cheeseburger was 2 of the Walmart Great Value patties. They're $75.25. They're 1/4 pound each. So I had a 1/2 pound of meat. I ripped a piece of the Tillamook cheese in half, the cheddar, and I put a 1/2 slice on each burger, and just a tiny little bit of mayonnaise, Kraft mayonnaise. I know it's got soy. I get it. And a little bit of ketchup. I know it's nightshades. Sugar-free. Okay. And I did that. And then I had 1 Clausen pickle slice on that too. So it tasted super great. There's a couple things going on here. And it goes against kind of what I've said in the past. But for me, I have to kind of gauge, is something working for sustainability? And I really want to talk about this, guys. It's super important. I did the all meat for a month, as I told you, in September of 21. We're coming up on 3 years anniversary on that. And I did lose 5 pounds that month. But I was utterly dissatisfied. I was bored. It's like, and the carnivores that are purists, and God love them, because I watch those guys too. They diss that kind of thing. They're like, why can't you just eat steaks every day? And that's great. And I'm glad it works for a few people. And that's nice. But the problem is that the majority of us want to have something we can stick to, and it doesn't give us mental fatigue, either by decision making, for our food each day, or thoughts of preparation, or just thoughts of food. Or thoughts of hunger, or whatever. I started to feel like this isn't working for me. And I'm not ashamed or feel bad or anything about changing up or evolving or allowing a metamorphosis to happen with my principles. I'm more about, can I find a place that works for me as an individual? And if so, and I start to see success, can I tell my little subscribers, group, hey, this is working. This is working for me. And will they have success as well? So I think one of the things I hate is when a content creator, such as myself or whoever, 1 subscriber, 1 million subscribers, whatever, you're still a content creator, comes on with these kinds of things and they don't say exactly what they're eating. I think people really want to know, okay, you lost 2 pounds and you're fat burning? That's not water. And how did you do that? And first thing I got to tell you guys is that I'm going uphill. First thing I got to tell you is that calories were up there. My carbs were low, and my fat was up there, 182 yesterday. My protein was about 120 something. So traditionally, people will be like, wow, lots of fats, lots of calories. How are you losing weight? This is the beauty of what I'm going to tell you. This is the takeaway, is that it was, believe it or not, how frequently I ate. I stopped overeating because I was no longer hungry to that level. And that's what Mom and I are kind of figuring out I was doing, is that it didn't help me to be that narrow, because then I'd be like, oh, well, I need more of this because I can't have that, right? And so it's actually a mental game of sorts. And so I went ahead and said, I'm not playing this game. Let me just eat when I'm hungry. Now, Mom and I were talking, and she was like, well, if you start to plateau or not lose that much weight, and my goal was like 3 or 4 pounds for the month. I wasn't actually that pressed. I was like, let me just see if this happens now. And she pointed out a lot of things to me that I thought were really sage and wise. And one of them was that she goes, all this aggressive fasting, all this changing around from, beef only to then this. And she said, I think your body's really confused. And it doesn't have anything to latch onto. And it's just kind of like parked its ass on being better, losing weight, any of that. She said, because you're not intuitive enough with your eating right now. And she goes, you need to listen to your body. And she said, we both know that low carb's the way to go. I think my audience understands that. Insulin resistance is the driver for weight gain, nothing else. I watched this guy, he's Swedish, and love him. He's a chiropractor, but he's a doctor. He knows a lot about the body, obviously. And he proposes that 5% of weight loss is from exercise and 95% is from diet. And I'm like, yes. I'm only walking because of my knee situation. And then also he had a video on that too, and I was like, that's great. So if you stayed in this long, and my subscribers know I'll loop back around. So if you've stayed this long, this is what I had to eat yesterday. I had 2 pieces of the Nature's Own bread. They're 1 carb each. I had a Yoplait low carb yogurt, and I'll go into that later. And it had 15 grams of protein, and I think 5 grams carbohydrate. And then I had 2 pasture-raised eggs with butter on one of the pieces of toast. I'll tell you what, guys, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. My body gave me the strong satiety signal. I was like, I couldn't imagine wanting any more food. Yet it didn't feel like a ton of food. You know what I'm saying? And I think you can overeat on a carnivore existence, and it's a problem. So then I went on my walk like I am now, and I got my little bit of physio for my knee done, and my other stuff. Today I'm doing my butt workout. I did that yesterday, and then Mom and I overhauled the craft room, took out all the stuff from there, and I moved some very heavy things. Very difficult for me. She helped me at 79. She's just a remnant. That's right. Anyway, so I was pretty tired yesterday. And then before we started the craft room purge, I had about 4 ounces of country style pork ribs. And I very deliberately put on about half of what I would normally eat. I was hungry enough to eat, but I was not starving. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, so my body's hungry now, so I'll give it this pork. And I sat there for about 5 minutes after I was done just to kind of see if I was still hungry. I didn't feel any hunger anymore. So I was like, well, that's good enough. And then I thought to myself, there's no reason for me to get anxious. I'll be eating again in 5 hours or whatever. And I already had what we had planned to eat out. And so, sure enough, Mom, who had had much less, she'd had some grapes and olives and stuff around when I was eating the pork. And then she had a single cheeseburger, and I had a double, and that caused me a little bit of a, should I have 2 or 1? And then I had, what I described, the pickle and the cheese and stuff. And after I was done, I gauged how I felt. I was no longer hungry at all, and I wasn't stuffed. And I was like, I'm just kind of train my body for how I should feel after I eat and how I should feel before I eat again. I know, you guys, it's just weird that would not be automatic for me, but it's not. And I wonder if it's not also not automatic for others. I think that we've gotten away from listening to our body's signals, and we're so removed from a natural life anymore that we override some of that stuff. And so anyhow, I woke up this morning, I was kind of like this when I checked the weight. I was like, and because I checked it twice, I was like, what? And then I realized, at first I thought I had gained, and then I realized, no, I've lost 0.8, I think is what it ended up being. Anyway, I started to track again, even though it's real depressing to see the super high numbers compared to just a month or two ago. You know, each time a new month came, I had gained more weight. And so for my body, it appears that I just need a small to moderate meal, an additional time, and then I make good choices about the carb content. Now I'm going to talk about that too, because I know I'm going to get some flack for some people because I've been very against processed and trying to get off of full sugars. And I'll tell you why. That's right. You bad horse. That's right. White face. Here it is. It's the lesser of the two evils. If what it takes for me to be consistent and lose weight and feel better and stay with an eating program that is much better than the standard American diet, the SAD, and I have to have some process in there and some artificial sugars to do it, I'm going to do that. And I know I might lose subs, or people might, their heads might spin off and they're going to get ticked. There's Whiteface there, guys. There he is. That's right. You terrible horse. He knows me. I used to do that all the time to him. And then he goes, I like her tone of voice. I'm going to come over there and see what it is. And I started bringing carrots and apples and stuff to him. Then he disappeared. And I do apologize to people that thought that maybe I'd get my act together and do this purist thing and they'd watch my story. But at the end of the day, fighting your body's own intuition and innate impulses is probably not okay. And I didn't know that. And here I am, celebrating my 7th year in July of being low carb. And I'm going to say it that way because yesterday's carbs were 13, and some of that was cream and some of it was eggs. So it's like, it's not that the carbs I clocked were so high. And I'm eating some yogurts that Mom didn't care for the taste of. They're still low carb, but they're okay. I'm going to switch to the brand that she likes too. She's got a real sensitive palate, and she tends to focus in on things that I also like. And so we're going to try to, eat the same foods kind of. Anyhow, and it's easier too in the household. It's nice. Hubs loves it. I get the low carb Franz, English muffins, hot dog buns, hamburger buns. They're all 1 carb each. I think the English muffins are 2. And then he can have, bread on his stuff, and that works out for him. And I don't know that I feel quite as good with having the process. And I'm not against just some days not having bread too. And I think that's gonna regulate. I can't claim carnivore at all. That's why I kind of took it off my site as being the cheating carnivore no more or anything like that. I still use carnivore as a hashtag in my Clapper, because I've been on Clapper for 3 years with that hashtag. And all I do now is I always preface my videos saying, hey, I've evolved my style of eating. I'm meat centric, but I also include some of these things. And that seems to work out much better. So now if anybody follows me, they know that I'm a strict low carb eater. And I think 0 carbs pretty fair. Because that's a moniker that indicates that you're not necessarily carnivore, but you don't have, less than 10 carbs or something. Because even an animal product such as cream or eggs has some carb to it. And that's okay. We have a system in place to deal with carbs. They're in nature. Berries and stuff. You think our ancestors didn't raid a hive or grab berries when they were hunting for game that were ripe and on the bush and in the summer months? Yeah, they did. It's fine. That's why we're such an adaptable being here on Earth. But I just want to let you guys know that there's hope. And I know that there's some guy subscribers. And I dig you guys, you males, because as you know, I'm not a male hater. I want to just digress for just a few seconds and say I had 4 sons whom I love very much and I'm very close with right now. And I think men have a hard row to hoe. The men that want to be real men and understand that masculinity is more about vigor, tenacity, and a moral compass that points north, and that they're an innate protector. of those that can't protect themselves, which would be women and children to a large degree. Now, if you're a experienced woman and you know hand-to-hand combat, weaponry, and any kind of martial arts to any degree of prowess, then we're talking about maybe being on some more equal footing. But that's not the case usually. Women are not inclined for that. They're like, oh, it's fun or whatever. There's women out there doing it, guys, but not like men. Men need to do that stuff. They know it. They feel a desire to do it. They want to protect themselves, and if anybody matters to them, they want to protect that person as well. Usually it's a woman and their offspring. So anyway, I just want to say, men, you go. Now, my message for women. I didn't want to, make the men feel like I was only talking to women. I'm not. I know what this guy's doing here. Okay. I'll just wave because F it. Anyway, menopausal women. I have noticed some changes. Not in the standard things that women talk about. And some of them are too personal to go into, but I haven't had any of that issue. But I have had, as you guys know, skin trouble and all kinds of other things. And I'm getting a lot of that organized, and it feels good. But I think part of this weight gain I've experienced is not of my making. I think part of it is that I've got like a hormonal shift going on, and Mom's right. I need to just keep things more consistent for my body and see where it goes. And that's what I want to do. And I think if I just listen a little bit better and I just don't think about it that much and just stay low carb, which is super easy for me at this stage. Whenever I eat something, I'm making a choice there, and I usually make the right choice. Also, I notice my cravings are way less in this last week. I don't crave, like fries or peanut butter or even alcohol or anything like I would on the other way. And I just think that there was some part of my body the impulse was desperation because it was used to fasting. And if I'd go past 5 or 6 hours and ignore a hunger signal, my body would be like, ooh, we need to eat. And I know you guys are going to think I'm silly. That's okay. I do a lot of intense intellectual stuff all day long for my job. Like, super focused. I have 3 ghostwriting projects going on at one time, my own work. I do paperbacks, I do foreign translations, I do formatting. I do highly technical and advanced intellectual work, and I have a high need for the proper fuel. And now I've tacked on, the movement of walking, which is fine. That's no trouble, right? But it is another thing that my body has to address physically. So it doesn't like it when it gives me a hunger signal because fuel's needed and I don't pay attention to it. Now, the key is that you, as a fat burner, you want to make sure that you're taking the fat off your body versus taking in too much dietary fat. And I have lost weight on a lot of fat guys, but it's too much thought process. I like tracking only so that I have a record of it. I don't want to track as a way to design my life. So yesterday was nice because I just thought about it in the morning. I was like, well, what will I have today to eat? And then I thought, well, there's leftover pork. There's the burgers. I took those out, threw them in the sink so they'd be defrosting. I said, Mom, do you want this today? And she said, sure. So we did that. This morning I asked her, what do you feel like today? And she's like, this isn't a good time to ask me. It's 8:30. Well, maybe we'll do bacon or something tonight because she loves bacon. And I've got that zero sugar bacon from Costco, which tastes good and is about the right thickness. Yeah, you savage? You effer? That's right. Waiting for him to scale the fence, then I have to run for my life or something and get treed. Anyway, so that's the takeaway. Intuitive eating, instinctive eating, low carb eating all go together. And you guys, if you're not walking, I think you should start walking. I watched a video by this Swedish guy, and he changed the way I looked at walking. Walking requires the brain to do things and engage synapses that would not normally be engaged in a way that helps the body and the brain together. And he said, it's not about the exercise, it's about the movement. It's about your brain causing your body to move. And then also, of course, he said that the obvious stuff, being out of doors, sunlight, all that stuff, that's all we're meant to have this type of a experience as humans. And so every day that I can, I'm walking. It would have to be an unusual day at this stage for me not to walk. Probably not Sundays, because that's Hub's and our day off, and we like to take our minds and bodies out of what we normally do 100% and just spend time with each other. In fact, it sucks right now because he's gone fetching our boat in South Dakota, and I couldn't go because I was pretty sick right then, and we knew it would be problematic on the trip, so I didn't go with him. But anyway, you guys, subscribe, like this video, and share this video with people that you know that are struggling with some kind of resolution. I think the answer is low carb, eating to when you're barely satisfied, and then eating when you're hungry. So for me, it's 3 meals a day, and they're real small meals, I think. I didn't feel like any of that was a lot, but I ended up getting about 2,300 calories. I was 180 something for fat, 120 something for protein. So I lost weight on that. It wasn't much, it was 0.8, but you know what? 0.2 is a win. If I just continue to kind of go down, I like that. And if I need to eat like this until I stop losing, and then I would then have a little room to wiggle. I'd take out that extra piece of toast, or I'd add an egg and take out the yogurt or whatever. You see what I'm saying, right? And that's really important to remember, that you want to give yourself enough room to take something out without having to be hungry. So I didn't want to go down too low too fast, because that has the opposite effect. And then I do stall and I can't lose. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Love you guys. Subscribe.